Okay, so with Total War Troy possibly releasing later this year, I thought it would be a good idea to have a little look into what Bronze Age warfare in Total War may look like. Now, we've never had anything really close to a Bronze Age before. We had Bronze Age Egypt in Rome Total War, but that doesn't really count, I don't think. So I'm going to take a look here using the Age of Bronze mod for Rome 2 Total War to try and get a bit of a feel for it, to see how it's probably going to look. It's not going to be a perfect example, of course, but we'll give it a go. Let's see what we can actually find out, what could possibly be happening. So, the two factions I have chosen is the Mycenae and the Trojans. Now these are going to be the two main factions in Total War Troy, more than likely. I really doubt we're going to see any other different culture. Well, there'll be different cultures, but these are the main two playable ones. So let's see what we actually have available to us. Now, as we can see here on the Mycenae, or Greek, I'll probably call them Greek in this video just because it's actually easier to say. So Greek, we have a chance to have a Chariot General, and that's something I do want to bring up. Chariots and their role in this game. They didn't have cavalry like how we see them in the Roman era, or especially in the medieval era. They didn't have that because the horses were not really strong enough or built enough to be able to like carry an actual unit on and be used in warfare. So at the time, what people used to use is chariots, and those were like the tank of the Bronze Age sort of thing. That they're the ones who used to like be the fast moving. We can see here on this mod, they are actually the most expensive unit, and I can imagine them being like that in the game, very expensive. Because you know, back in those days I couldn't just build a chariot, like limited population, limited resources. Actually to build a chariot would have been quite difficult. Alright, let's look now into the melee units. We got some axemen, light swordsmen, Thessalian axemen, some Mycenae swordsmen, and some Achaean heavy swordsmen. So yeah, axes were definitely used in this era, along with spears. Swords were less used, but you know, you would still see swords. And also, for the same reason why chariots are expensive, armoured units are expensive. Like, anything with heavy armour is much more expensive than a usual unit, because armour was difficult to make back then, and I'm sure we'll see something like this in Troy. But one thing to take into consideration with these spearmen is that they're not really pikemen. Now, when it comes to the difference between spearmen and pikemen, there's debated sources. Most of what I have read leans more towards it was spears, but there's definitely some evidence there that says pikes may have been used. Whether the pikes were used in a phalanx formation, I'm sure it would have happened, but there's not, you know, back in the time of Troy at least, there's not heavy sources that say that pikes were used in a phalanx formation. And then we get onto the missiles, slingers and archers. As you can see here, these are just light bows. Missile units were very light. The missile infantry of the Bronze Age world were more along lines with just hunters. So if hunters did not have the equipment, then the soldiers are not going to have the equipment. Moving over to Troy now, we see again the same chariot unit. So yeah, chariots are going to be definitely present, but I can't imagine too much variety in the chariots. They would have had to create them all very similar, not that much time, intelligence or resources to experiment and try and create something super unique, so they would have been limited with that. Clearly in this mod it shows the Trojans to be a bit more advanced, as their swords have a slight curve in them. Whether these swords were better, I don't know, but the fact that we can actually create something a little bit more unique compared to the Greeks does suggest that they might be more advanced when it comes to the military. I find it interesting that the game gives them Babylonian spearmen. Now the Trojans at this time were known as close allies of the Hittite Empire, so it is quite possible that in their roster we will see some Hittite units. Babylonians, I don't know the link to Troy and Babylon, but if these were like Hittite spearmen, I would understand that because they did have good relations. And what we see in Troy, which the Greeks don't have, is a massive range of archer units right here. From javelins to archers, some city archers, Trojan pelters and river hunters, but still it's the same again. All of these are just hunters really. Like if the top unit is called a hunter, then that says to me that the general missile roster is not that good. It's not militarized and it's more just a bunch of hunters. So as you can see here, the missile units are going to be mostly made up of just very simple hunters, citizens, stuff like that. No real armour on the soldiers. Now I'm sure we'll see diversity with the chariots, with like how many units are in each chariot. I believe it was like the Egyptians who could fit 3 people on. But it seems here that the Greeks are just going to be 1 unit. I don't know what we're seeing in Total War Troy, but what we see here is just 1 spearman. I think we'll probably see 2, and this is where our missile cav is going to be as well. Some units will be archer units on a chariot as well. That's where they'll get their missile cav. What the mod does is it uses more like the random clothing rather than armour and uniform for all the light units to show that they were part of like civilian armies. Like we see definitely different cultures here, and it's more just random villagers rather than actual armies, because back then the population wasn't high enough to have a full standing army for a lot of these factions. But some troops did exist, and as we can see here by the heavier infantry, they've definitely got armour and shields. So these nations of course would have had armoured troops on the battlefield, but most of their armies and most of the armies we'll see in Troy as well, I think, will be villager armies, just normal civilians who have been drafted into the military. And yeah, we do see some nicer bronze coloured armour there. The pikeman unit, interestingly enough, is actually shirtless, so yeah, get a good view there. And here the chariots go riding up to try and take the high ground. And what's this? We got some Trojan chariots here. So these actually have 4 horses carrying them. That's interesting. Yeah, 4 horse chariots there. Let's send our chariots up to try and knock these out. Okay, so here we go. We're going to charge in. And oh, they're firing their arrows at us. So yeah, as you can see, Chariot Warfare with only 1 unit in there is a bit weird, because someone's got to drive a chariot. What you'll need is another person to actually like use the spear and fight. And Troy's roster is very similar, really. Now, some of them have a bit more armour, but overall they are just villagers, and we can definitely see it here as well. A lot of villagers, different cultures, all mixed into one. Come on, kill him, kill him. Oh, he got away. Come on, cut down these chariots. There we go. There we go. Right, get back into formation now. Okay, sadly stupid MELKOR was looking too much at the detail on the units, and I kind of lost most of my chariots, and I'm about to lose my general, so get him back there to safety. There we go. I threw the javelins in, that sorted those chariots out. There, now they've broken, but I lost my general as well. He's fled the field, so that's all my chariots gone. Chariots are a unit that you're probably going to want to keep back, I can imagine. And not like with other Total War games where you can just send the cavalry in right at the start, maybe pick off some skirmishers or pick off some their general or something like that. Chariots you're going to want to keep behind because they're not going to be as mobile as cavalry. So you don't want to keep them behind, get their infantry actually in combat first, and then you want to use your chariots to ram into the back of the enemy. But yeah, watching the pike formation, try and move up here. So the Greeks have 4 spearmen units, but only one of them is a pike unit, and I think that is kind of accurate. Most of the spears were just spears, very few actual pikemen, if any. And also in this game, as you can really see right now, terrain is everything. Also in this era, as you can see right now, terrain is everything. a bit of high ground, a swamp, some trees, that's enough to change a battle completely. And they've already said that they will be adding that in Troy. They've talked about mud, they've talked about different terrain that can slow units down, and yeah, more forms of terrain that are going to shape up your fighting style and change it a bit. And that's what a lot of Trojan Warfare was all about, really. A lot of it was decided on just terrain. Right, so we got our pikemen here trying to push them back. The spears were not heavy enough back then, like not well designed enough, not heavy enough, I guess, to actually hold back units like they could do in the later Greek world, and we'll probably see in the Wrath of Sparta campaign. They were much lighter, so it'd be much easier for troops to actually get through the spears, through the pikes, and actually get into combat with the phalanxes. And I think I'm actually going to lose this battle here. They got to the high ground first. I had to rush my chariots up there to try and secure it, and yeah, that's what decided the battle. And I can imagine that's something we're also going to see a lot in Troy. The start is going to be a skirmish for the better terrain, and that usually will decide the battle, unless one player has enough numbers to actually break through it. So now my final group of troops, we're trying to fight up here, but they have missile advantage, which I'm guessing is probably going to be something you'll have to be worrying about when fighting the Trojans. But overall, all of this information just comes from general reading on the Bronze Age and Troy that I've developed over many years. The gameplay that you are seeing now is only using the Rome 2 Total War Bronze Age mod, so even this isn't going to be like 100% perfect or anything. At the end of the day, I don't know how the developers at the Creative Assembly are going to create Total War Troy. But I don't know that, none of us here know that. But by looking at the history, we can get some idea of how battles may be fought, and this mod in particular, I think, does help us get a good idea of how the game could end up looking. Overall, I hope you have enjoyed this video. My troops right now are just getting slaughtered. There's really nothing at all that we can do. We lost the high ground at the start, we lost our cav, and we never had any missile advantage, and there we go. Everything breaks like that. I hope you enjoyed, I hope this gave you a bit more understanding on what Troy could be like and how Bronze Age warfare could have been. At the end of the day, everyone's sources are limited, everyone's information therefore is going to be slightly different. A lot of it was sort of down to speculation as well. A lot of our research, because we don't have concrete enough sources from the time. And hopefully, and I really hope, that the developers can use that to actually have some creative freedom and go outside of the history a bit. I like it when a developer team does that, as long as it's not too ridiculous, of course, but as long as there's some backing there, I'll be happy to see it. Overall, I hope you enjoyed this little quick video that I wanted to make. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'll definitely be covering Troy when it comes out and more information about Troy as we lead up to it and some thoughts. Share with anyone you think may be interested. Until the next one, goodbye.